Rhine River, Germany, March 1945. German artillery crews scan the far bank, counting engines, counting tanks, counting men. What they hear is unmistakable. The grind of treads, the clang of steel, the low murmur of thousands of soldiers preparing to cross. 2 entire American divisions, nearly 40,000 men, massing for an assault. They open fire on empty fields.
There is no army there. There are barely more than 1,000 men, actors, artists, and radio operators, projecting speakers into the dark and pushing rubber tanks into position by hand. The real crossing is happening 10 miles away, almost unopposed. This is the story of the soldiers the U.S. Army never wanted the enemy or the public to know existed. In the spring of 1943, a strange notice appeared on the bulletin board of an art college in Cleveland. It didn't say much, a vague call for men interested in a new camouflage unit. 19-year-old Bernie Bluestein signed up without knowing what he was walking into. He wasn't alone. Across the country, the Army was quietly gathering set designers, illustrators, sound engineers, and advertising men. 2 future giants of American culture were among them, a young painter named Ellsworth Kelly and a fashion designer named Bill Blass. They weren't being trained to fight. They were being trained to lie, convincingly, and at the scale of a battlefield.
The idea had come from 2 officers in London, Ralph Ingersoll and Billy Harris, who had studied how the British used fake tanks and false signals to mislead Rommel's forces in North Africa. If deception could shift the outcome of a desert battle, they argued, it could do the same across an entire continent. On January 20th, 1944, their unit was formally activated at Camp Forest, Tennessee. 1,100 men, average IQ near the top of the Army's charts, commanded by Colonel Harry Reeder. Officially, they didn't exist.
Their equipment looked like a prop warehouse. 93-pound inflatable tanks that 4 men could carry and pump full of air in under 30 minutes. Trucks rigged to drag chains and scrap metal, chewing up dirt roads to fake the tracks of armored columns that were never there. Then came the sound. At the Army Experimental Station in upstate New York, engineers recorded the specific noise of tank engines, pontoon construction, and marching infantry, blending the tracks so convincingly that the recordings could be played from massive speakers mounted on trucks, audible up to 15 miles away on a quiet night.
And beneath the theater sat something more dangerous: radio deception. Signal Corps operators mimicked the exact transmission habits of real divisions, their call signs, their rhythms, even the operator's individual fist on the telegraph key, convincing German listening posts that entire corps were shifting position when nothing had moved at all. 3 tools, 1 mission: make the German army see a war that wasn't happening, so the real one, somewhere else, could. By August 1944, the 23rd had its first true test under fire. At the Siege of Brest, they combined every method at once: inflatable armor, sonic trucks, false radio traffic, to convince the German garrison that a far larger force surrounded them than actually did. It was also one of the rare moments the unit found itself dangerously close to real combat. Corporal Jack Massey, a young Brooklyn native attached to the unit, later called it the most intense fighting he witnessed in the entire war. They learned fast. Brest taught the 23rd that deception wasn't just props and recordings. It was performance. Soldiers impersonating other divisions had to live the part, wearing the wrong unit's patches, chatting in cafes, letting rumors drift toward anyone who might be listening. If a single detail broke character, the whole illusion could collapse. That September, At Bettenberg in Luxembourg, the Ghost Army faced its longest operation of the war. More than a week defending a dangerously thin 20-mile stretch of front for Patton's Third Army, using nothing but noise, radio chatter, and rubber. Operations Officer Colonel Clifford Simonson later called it the moment the unit finally executed a mission fully professionally and correctly. It wasn't glamorous, it was exhausting, and it was real risk carried by men with no rifles worth mentioning, and no reinforcements coming. Through the fall and into the brutal winter of the Battle of the Bulge, the 23rd kept moving. Hurtgen Forest, the Maginot Line, the Ardennes. Each operation another layer of static thrown over German intelligence at the exact moment the real Allied lines were most vulnerable.
Their final act in March 1945 was their most ambitious. Operation Viersen called for the 23rd to impersonate not one division, but two, roughly 40,000 men along the Rhine, to pull German attention away from the U.S. Ninth Army's actual crossing point, 10 miles south. They inflated more than 600 dummy vehicles. They filled the airwaves with fabricated orders. They played the sound of pontoon bridges being built through the night, on repeat, for German ears across the river. It worked. The Ninth Army crossed with minimal resistance. The Army's own post-war history called it simply the unit's best deception of the war. Fitting, since it was also its last. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troops staged more than 20 deception operations across 4 countries. 3 of their men were killed, dozens wounded, doing a job that left almost no trace and earned almost no recognition, because for over 50 years, none of it could be spoken of at all. The mission stayed classified until 1996. By the time the world learned the full story, many of the men who lived it were already gone. In 2022, the survivors who remained were finally awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, honoring a war fought without a single shot fired by design. A war of tanks that weighed nothing, armies that were never there, and soldiers whose greatest weapon was making the enemy believe.